Welcome to Grow Black Leaders,
your go-to source for all things leadership, growth, and development.
for Black leaders, by Black leaders. Let's grow.
Welcome to the Grow Black Leaders podcast. I'm so excited to be here today with my friend, Gary Chambers. I know a lot of you got a chance to know Gary back when he had his, now I can't even call it infamous, famous moment. I'm going to talk about you, Connie. We might talk a little bit about that today, because I know that was a pivot point for you. But here at Grow Black Leaders, we exist to create an ecosystem, a space, a community where Black leaders can cultivate Black leaders. Look, we understand that leadership is complex, it's complicated, and when you add being Black to that, it's a lot of nuances that we have to sort through, talk through, and grow through. So today, we hope that you're going to grow through this conversation. Welcome to the Grow Black Leaders podcast, Gary. So glad to have you. Now, I'm excited to have this conversation today. And before we jump in, I recognize that while I've had an opportunity to get to know you, and Gary and I will probably talk about our origin story, if you will, at some point, and a lot of people now know you, there may be a few people who are listening today who have no idea who Gary Chambers is, or they only know you from one vantage point. So I want to take a few moments, if you would, just for you to share, who is Gary Chambers?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And we do go way before I was ever involved in advocacy in a public way. But I would say Gary Chambers is a guy who still loves the community that he grew up in.
Yes.
I still live in the same neighborhood I grew up in, across the street from my parents. I am Zoe's daddy, which is one of the main reasons why I fight.
Yes.
When you grew up in a community like I grew up in, you recognize that things didn't just get the way that they are.
Yes.
That it got there originally because somebody was intentional about it. And if it's going to maintain or grow itself, it's going to have intentional connectivity and leadership connected to it as well. So I think that's me in a nutshell. In the life that I live, I try to just be a part of the things that I want to see, not just talk about the things.
Absolutely. Now, it's funny because Gary and I are two church boys who have happened to go out into the world and find lanes of leadership. I know I still do some things in the church. You probably do more with the church than the church knows. A lot of the work that you do, I feel like a lot of the work that you do, even in activism, it has reignited, or you're trying to at least reignite what it looks like for the church to be connected to civic issues. So there's a host of things that are in our history. You and I met, I think it was like 2009.
Somewhere around there. It was, I think Zoe might not have been born yet, or she was about to be born, but I was over the young adult ministry at my church.
Yes.
And you were praise and worship leader, dropped, I think, either your first or second at the time.
Yeah.
And you came and sang at a conference that I was hosting, and the rest is history. But I had heard you sing at other people's stuff before.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I do my thing, I want him to come.
That is so true. And it's funny because, I think back then, it's weird. We were both in ministry. I think we both knew that there would be a pathway in ministry for us. I think we both end up taking paths that neither one of us really saw as well,
You could have never told me that in 2009 that in 2022 I'd be running for the U.S.
Come on.
Right?
Come on.
You could have never told me that the things that I've done in advocacy would result in, police policy changed or hundreds of millions of dollars invested in to a community that's been divested, healthcare centers, all of those things, because that was not my purpose. Right?
Yeah.
That was not what I was seeking to do. I was a small business owner with two of my friends. Thought I was on the journey to be a pastor. And every one of my yard signs that people have ever put in their yard said, seek justice, not knowing that was Isaiah 1:17.
Yeah.
Seek justice, help the widow, the orphan, the oppressed, and the poor. My leadership model is rooted from my faith.
Yeah.
I just don't wear it on my shoulder because I think that one of the things that we've done as believers is we've turned people off with our faith rather than turn them on.
Wow.
And so people could be introduced into the human and then be introduced into their God.
Come on.
Right. And if I like you enough and you exude or embody enough things that are attractive to me, then that makes me want to be interested in why are you this way? When people ask me why am I this way, I always go back to my faith.
Literally. And this is why I like conversations like this specifically for you, because I feel like one of the things that can get lost, especially with the way you've inserted your voice, the things that you've been allowed to do, I feel that sometimes people don't get to see the humanity of Gary. They see all of these other layers. They see this very bold and courageous voice because you ain't scared of nothing or nobody.
I ain't gonna say it's clear. I just do it scared.
There you go. Oh, look, we might get into a combo on that today, which is so true. Like you have this, and I get that because there could be these things that you sort through as leaders that no one gets to see, how you rise above moments of fear or apprehension. But for the most part, what I love is you don't let anything stop you or stop your focus. Whatever you are committed to, serious about, you're going to move forward. And what that has done sometimes for people, and I love that you try your best to help them to still see, look, I'm a dad, I'm a man, I'm all of these things, but people miss the humanity. And I like to speak about that and to that because I know a lot of your origin. I was just talking to somebody this morning who's very excited that we're having this conversation, by the way. Cannot wait to listen to it. And I was saying to him, I said, what you all see, who you all see, that's Gary. That's been who he has been. He's not been a person that has shied away from using his voice when it matters the most. But I will ask this before we get into the conversation that I believe we're going to have today. What about your humanity do you wish people actually knew or at least would give you the opportunity and the benefit of sharing more often rather than just seeing you from one vantage point?
I think most advocates would say this, is that I'm still evolving. That when we get into this work, because something moved us or something called us into a moment to respond to.
Yeah.
But as you navigate this work, you are dealing with your own human experience while attempting to make other people's human experience better.
Yeah.
Right? And in that, you make mistakes.
You do.
You say things in a way that is passionate sometimes. And passionate people, this is one of the things I think that people don't understand about passionate people. We passionate when we're sad. We passionate when we're happy. We passionate when we're mad.
We just passionate
all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it does not run away because the room is different or the mood is different or the environment is different. And I think that giving people like me the grace to grow and evolve into the human that we want to be, if you see an individual repeatedly make the same mistake, then you know that's a pattern.
Yes.
Right? But if you see somebody who can recognize, okay, maybe I could say these things better. Maybe I could choose better words. Maybe I could not do this in this moment, right? I don't necessarily apologize for things that I've done that offended people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people need to be offended.
Yeah.
Because it's offensive to me, some of the things people allow, right? But I do think that it is necessary to be clear in why we are bringing offense, right? That it is not a personal thing, that this is not something that I'm attacking you, I'm attacking an issue. I've also had to learn how to be more of a diplomat, that navigating this is the same grace that I need, I have to extend to people.
Yeah.
And I have to teach that to other people, that in this work, if you want people to do the hard things we're asking them to do, then as they start moving in that direction, that we got to give them the space to get there.
Yes.
Right. And that's not the same for all of us. And if you want me to do that for you, then you got to do that for me. And I think that the other thing that I would say in my humanity is these things deeply impact me. The things that I pick up and advocate for, you know, I've helped raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for people who have been killed by the police, people who have been unjustly murdered. I have helped families navigate the legal process. I've helped communities move through things that were trying. And in every one of those things, I still got to go home.
Yeah.
I still have to talk to my daughter. I still have to spend time with my family. And sometimes when I walk into the space to try to be a human in my own personal space, that is a heavier lift than not, because you spend so much time carrying other people's loads in the work that we do.
That's good. You said a while back, I loved what you said about passionate people. And I'm going to bring you back there because it's true. People who are passionate, they cannot turn that part of them off. No matter what they do. I was saying this about my son the other night. So I was at practice. He had practice at church and they were getting ready for a dance that they're going to do. And I was talking to somebody and I was like, whatever that boy does, he's going to do it with passion. What people have learned to appreciate about him is that he will have a passionate expression. It's so weird that people both love and despise passion.
Mm-hmm.
They love passion when passion is moving in a pathway that they desire. But when your passion begins to challenge them, right, in ways that they may not find palatable, that can be challenging. And I heard you also speak to learning over time to be more diplomatic. It's funny. It's funny to me. I look at our journeys. I feel like your journey has been to find a pathway closer to being diplomatic. And I feel like over time, I've moved more and more away from diplomacy. It's like, isn't it? I feel like I started out, I've always been bold, but I was like very, very diplomatic, trying. And you were just out here. And, it's like,
I remember I walked into a meeting one time and there was a councilwoman. It was FBI was having this meeting with the community, and man, they were having a meeting and it was like a private thing. They only invited certain people in the community. So we had about 60 people. Yeah, we just went upstairs in a meeting. Like, nah, what y'all doing? Like, we here. And that's exactly what I did. We here. And it's like, people don't anticipate that you can just enter into a room and demand that people say, nah, we here. And that is, I have had to learn that is necessary sometime, but not all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, I think in navigating learning diplomacy, I remember I was at a council meeting once and everything I said was true.
Yeah.
Okay. But the Deltas were there because it was the Delta Day at the council. And so you had all of these older Black women there who had their red on and they're sitting there because they're going to get acknowledged today by the city council.
Come on, they're ready.
So they're ready. They're in the building, but they're watching the meeting. Yeah. Okay. So the meeting going on and a particular council person was up there lying.
Oh,
okay.
Lord.
And so
I'm already trying to get myself ready.
I'm in the back of the room and I can't take it no more. Okay.
Yeah.
I said, you lied. Okay. I said it about 2 or 3 times. Yeah. Every time you lied, I called you a lie.
Yeah.
Now she eventually changed her tone and began to tell what was the truth in that conversation. But there was about 40 Black women in red who did not like the fact that I, as a Black man, was standing in the back of the room saying to a Black woman, she's a liar. It didn't matter to them that she was lying. It mattered to them that you as a Black man in this community are disrespecting her right now. And I don't care about nothing else you saying because you're disrespecting her. Now, for me, everything I said was the truth.
Yes.
And the truth is what we should be concerned about.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
However, because everybody ain't there.
Everybody ain't there.
Everybody ain't there. I have had to learn that in every season, in every room, I can't be 100% that if I want to keep everybody there with me.
Wow.
Right? That if I want these people to stay on my side, that unless it is blatant, unless it is like blaring in some way, that I have to be cognizant of, people are going to perceive me as the angry person when the truth is I'm just trying to get y'all to see she playing. Absolutely. Right? That stuff doesn't go away when you walk out of those rooms.
That's true.
Right? There were people who had opinions formed about me from moments like that, but never examined the person who was lying. Right?
Yes.
Because we respond to what we see more than what we hear.
Ooh. And we become more uncomfortable with what is not ordinary. Now I feel like we're about to really go into the conversation we got to have.
We are not used to free black men.
That's a bar right there. What are we not used to?
Whenever you see a free black man, that is alarming to people, especially black people, because a white man walk into a council meeting and call a white person a liar, and nobody think twice about it, because you see him as a free, full citizen.
Wow.
But you don't even see black men or black women as free, full citizens to challenge their government.
Wow.
So every time we step up and talk, people always want us to be talking in a manner that is respectful or that is congenial to the people that are there. But the reality is, you work for me.
That part.
So if I am the person that is in charge,
Yes.
if I am the person who is empowered to empower you, then why am I putting all of my authority on the shelf for yours?
Oh, I love this, because I feel like this is where people get lost in diplomacy. Like, there is such a balance to this. So we're talking about the fact that I feel like we've been meeting in the middle on that. You know, it's very interesting to see the path. So for me, I had this career that was ascending in the corporate world, and much of that ascension meant that, as many people do, there is a high level of assimilation as you're moving up on that corporate ladder. And I had to make some very intentional decisions about what it would look like for me to deploy my voice into my industry. It was, and I remember the moment, right? So I started this journey to speak more, and you were already out there. And then you started, okay, how do I want to harness my voice? Here's the crazy part. A lot of the work that each of us have ended up doing in the lane of advancing our people started around the same time. You were navigating a host of things with the Rouge Collection, which you tell your story about just how a black man was trying to get business done in the city of Baton Rouge. You decided to put your office on the South Side. I have a similar story of how we planted our church on the side of town where people say that black people cannot routinely be successful, but you saw the impact of racism in business. I was seeing it in my own lane, and then we united our voices around the time of Trayvon Martin, which I believe is what, I don't feel like black people have ever been fully asleep in terms of what's been happening in our country, but I do believe that that was a turning point. Like the Trayvon Martin moment, it was something for all of us to digest, and many people, no matter what their socioeconomic status or background happen to be, because let's talk about the fact that based upon socioeconomic status, a lot of times that determines whether or not people are properly deploying their voices. You and I aligned at that time. So just so y'all know, because some people be trying to think, and we have to get them together. Some people think that Gary just started this when Alton Sterling happened. You know, some people think you just jumped in and you saw an opportunity. Let's call them out. You just saw an opportunity and decided to show up. No, you were actually, and we did some work together during Trayvon Martin. You continued work all the way up into that point. When you got to that point of Alton Sterling, you had already had a body of work in this lane. You just leveraged your voice at that time to amplify a message. And your journey has seen many pivot points like that. Talk about just the progression of your voice moving in this space, because I think it's important. And then we are going to pivot this conversation, because one of the things that we really want to help many of you who are tuned in today is to grasp with the fact that you're on a pioneering journey, and it's difficult. You and I talked about this yesterday. We really going to have a conversation about the pain of pioneering. And you, I know, have your war wounds, and so do I. But can you, before we go there, talk about the progression of your voice from, the Rouge Collection to Trayvon Martin to Alton Sterling to Connie? All of these were iterations of you that people who got a chance to know you in the recent years, where it's just accelerated, they may have missed those steps.
I'd say it's kind of like David on the backside of the mountain. I saw a lion and a bear and killed them before I ever came out
Come on,
The life.
preacher.
For me, before there was Alton Sterling, there was Jacoby Davis, who was a 16-year-old kid who was beat up on Earth Day by Blaine Salamone and Todd Begoyan, who were Baton Rouge police officers. Blaine Salamone, 4 months later, ends up being the cop who kills Alton Sterling.
Wow.
Well, if you had suspended him when I said so 4 months later, he wouldn't even be on duty the day that the incident happens and he kills Alton Sterling. And in 2012, I think like many people, Trayvon Martin called us to this work.
Yes.
As if something in that moment made me recognize this could be me any day of the week, any city, any state, wherever I am. I could end up in a situation where I'm just walking down the street and somebody killed me and they get to go home.
Mm-hmm.
What my journey has shown me is that happens every day.
Yes.
You know, just last year or 2 years ago, a man named Alfred Buckley was killed at the Trader Joe's here in Baton Rouge by a young white kid named Jace Boyd, who shot him as a panhandler who was asking a lady for some money in the parking lot. He said the lady felt threatened. I post about it on my social media. The lady ends up coming in the comments saying she didn't feel threatened at all. Wow. Right? The cops let him go home that night. He would not have been charged with murder had we not exposed that and said, no, this guy killed a man in broad daylight in the parking lot of Trader Joe's. He should go to jail, right?
And felt empowered and emboldened.
And was good with it,
Yes.
right? For me, when you play my life back, Trayvon Martin was 10 years before that, right?
Yes.
Like my life has been a series of this is happening in the world. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Right? We can sit there and look at life and let life happen, or we can make life happen. I say all the time, you watch the news, we do the things that make people write the news. We do the things that are hard, that are gritty, that are dirty. And I was doing that long before anybody knew my name. That is why people in the community, in leadership, respect me. I've seen people say, why did you give him the mic? You I'm about to cuss. You know, because at this point, if you don't give me the mic in this room, I will walk out of this room and use my microphone to ensure that everybody knows what took place in this room. And that has kind of been my journey in 2012. Well, really, so two of my friends and I started the Rouge Collection in 2012. Was it 2012?
It was somewhere around there.
We started it in 2012. And then 2013, I remember we were in our office on Perkins when the George Zimmerman trial was going on or something like that. And I wrote my first column about police inaction or the injustices Black people face. And then fast forward, Mike Brown gets killed. I hold my first town hall meeting. You were there. And I knew a pastor who was Pastor Eric Williams. Shout out to Beacon Light. He let us have a town hall there. I knew one elected official. I knew you. And we pulled some people together. We held this town hall. 37 people show up, right? But that is my first town hall.
Yes.
You fast forward that, a brother was in parish prison. They said he hung himself, and we didn't believe it. I wrote a column about it. 40,000 people read that column. And for me, it's kind of like I have been the person that when things happen with Black people, I have been willing to use my voice in whatever form I have at that time to amplify that message to make people do something about it. Because what I recognized was when I saw Mike Brown's situation in St. Louis or in Missouri, Ferguson, for me, I hated the fact that when his mother was grieving that they just let her be in the middle of the street. So when Alton Sterling happened, the family called me, actually. I didn't call them. I knew about the situation, and I had gone to the store earlier that day and done a Facebook Live. It was my first Facebook Live, actually. And the only reason I went live is because there was a reporter there from the Advocate that I did not know. And the guy from the store was telling us both the same thing. I didn't know if she was going to tell the truth in the paper. So because I didn't know if she would tell the truth or not, I went live so that there could be a record of what he said.
Wow.
I had no intention of trying to bring attention to myself. Live, but there was a reporter there who I did not know, who actually was a person of integrity. And most people of integrity in journalism don't stay in Baton Rouge. She ended up going to the LA Times later, but she wrote the truth, but I did a live. 700,000 people watched it. Had no clue that this is my first Facebook Live. Fast forward, we advocate for the family. We do all these things, but in the process of helping move the family from grief to telling their story. When they call me to the house, we sit down, we have a conversation. The president of the NAACP locally, Mike McClanahan, was there. Edmund Jordan, who's a state rep and a lawyer, was there. And we're sitting talking. And in my mind, I go back to watching Mike Brown's mother on national TV in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And people watching her pain and agony and wishing that there was somebody there who had navigated that better for her.
Wow.
Because she was in the moment of her grief. That is a mother's agony, right? But nobody gonna help this woman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when that happened here, we sat down and we talked about, we're gonna humanize Alton. We're gonna talk about his humanity today. Before they get a chance to say anything else, so I had a news platform in Baton Rouge, the Rouge Collection. I did a video, we recorded an interview with her outside the Triple S. We did that and put it out before she did CNN.
Wow.
And we did that so that when she did CNN, that they would have to use what the community was already talking about as the conversation about who Alton Serves was.
I love it.
And so for us, it has always been about recognizing if this is how they school us, how do we build fences around that? How do we make sure that we protect ourselves from getting navigated the way that we always do by having the discipline to tell our stories in a meaningful way, so that our humanity is seen before the criminality that people discuss.
Wow. And by the time you got to Connie, and this is what people have to know, that was just another day in the life of Gary.
When people bring up Connie, like my closest friends, people always say, I've seen him give so much better speeches before the government that it's like, the reason I think that went viral is because of the moment we were in as a country.
Yeah.
But also on a personal level, there were things that I had gone through on a personal level that I believe when I passed the test when Gary passed, not the community, not whatever else, but when I had recognized there were things that I needed to do in my leadership style differently.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That when Connie happened, it just goes up.
Right? And it's time.
And it was a series of all of these things that I'll be honest, at the beginning of 2020, I was asking, am I doing this wrong? Right? Because there were so many people who were telling me, Gary, your approach is wrong. You really need to do this. This, that, and the third. You're brilliant, but you're this, but this. There was always a but. Right? And so I got tired of all of those buts. And it made me start questioning whether or not I was doing the right thing. And then what I realized on the other side of Connie was you had just reached a ceiling with where you were. That you are listening to people who have never been exposed to something or anything like you.
Wow.
So because of that, they don't know how to handle that.
Wow. Now you are really pivoting us to the part of the dialogue that I really want to get to for our listeners today, where we talk about the pain of pioneering. I feel like people often glamorize the positions of pioneers. They glamorize it. They make it sound better than what it truly is. But pioneering, it's hard. And it's very painful. It does not feel good often at all. And that is what we struggle with a lot of times is, do I feel good about this journey? I'm having these two different worlds that are moving at the same time, where I'm seeing success and joy from one vantage point that people get to see, but I'm experiencing what is extremely uncomfortable. Because let's face it, when you're pioneering, it means that I'm going to pursue something that has not been done. That's the reality. Let's jump into that. What would you say? Because I know we have some pioneers on today that are listening to us, and they are at the point of just wanting to give up, quit, walk away. How would you start a conversation with them on navigating the pain of pioneering, staying the course? What would you say to them about your own journey?
I have this thing that I do, and people assume a lot when they see what you post on social media. I've been saying keep pushing for years. I put it on T-shirts, hashtag keep pushing. I put it at the end of almost every post I made for years, I was talking to myself. Every time I posted and knew that what I was posting was going to create an environment or a climate that was more difficult for me, I had to tell myself, keep pushing. Every time. Because, you know, I remember what it was like when I walked into meetings and everybody would whisper. And then I remember when people started like sitting up in their chair when I walked in the room. Like, oh, okay. You about to get rid of that, you know. And now when I walk into the room, you know, it's a level of respect that I could have never imagined back then. Now, don't get it twisted. People still try to play with folks like me. They do. But at this point, my level of confidence in who I am, what I can do, and why I do what I do, I don't get it as fazed by those things. I had a elder, and there's a difference between old people and health. Old people just talk at you. Elders talk to. Come on. Elders help enrich you and give you a path forward. They guide. Right? They guide you in something. For me, I had an elder who at one point told me straight up, you're not ready. He said, you're too emotional. You get wrapped up, you're just not ready.
Now, I know you couldn't have enjoyed him saying that at that time.
But let me say this, though. Because I grew up in church, I have never struggled with rebuke.
Come on.
That, you know, if you couldn't grow up under Edith Howard and Gavera Johnson, and either one of those pastors not get with you when you was handling something in a way that was not aligned to their leadership, right? So I didn't struggle with what he said. I struggled with, was it true? Right? I struggled with answering for myself, is what he said true?
Wow.
Because here's somebody who's accomplished certain things in his life. I respect this person. I have given myself over to take advice from this individual.
Yes.
To the degree that I know your advice is not to harm.
Yes.
Right? And because I know you ain't here to hurt me, then what you're telling me, I got to sit with that. And so in sitting with that, I recognize that there were moments where I needed to shut up. You know, because sometimes I spoke so soon that the other person didn't get to get exposed.
Wow.
Right? And to me, the pain of pioneering is learning how to manage you. Because we spend so much time trying to manage other things that we cannot manage. I cannot control how people respond to me. I cannot control how they feel about the truth. I cannot control if they are offended. All I can control is the intent in which I move, the manner in which I communicate, and the method in which I move with the people that I deal with.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
And so for me, what I started recognizing is that you got to choose your words better sometimes.
Yes.
Give you an example on Connie, right? I knew Connie for years before that meeting. We had good conversations, relationship, all of that type of stuff. But on the day that you do this, you upset me. So I'm going to deal with you.
Yeah.
Okay? So when I go up to speak, and there's a moment where I say, with your arrogant, right?
Yes.
I could have said, with your arrogant, hey, when I did, I could have said, with your arrogant self, knowing I wanted to cuss, right? But my experience with the Deltas, 7 years or 6 years before, let me know that if I use profanity when I talk to this woman, even though she's an elected official and a leader in this community, that there are going to be some women that can't hear nothing I said after that.
Wow. So you needed that previous lesson?
I needed that lesson in order to know how to navigate in the future. But the pain of it all is when you grow, but people still stuck where you were.
I literally just told someone this yesterday. I said that people routinely see you from the lens of where they met you. So it's like, what I love about our journey is we both continue to evolve since.
And we let each other become whoever that person is becoming in that moment.
We do. And we don't even have to talk all the time. When we pick that phone up, it'd be just like, you know, like we've been talking every day because we have that rhythm with each other and an understanding. You know we're going to have each other back. We're going to tell each other the truth. We're going to be honest. And that part of our journey, I believe, is just so good. I love that you talked about part of the pain of pioneering is dealing with yourself, because that's where the struggles, the internal battles exist. I remember one day I was having this conversation with God because I was frustrated. First of all, I was like, I feel like, and I know you will relate to this, I feel like I've been put in a position so many times to throw alley oops to other people that I am constantly the one who creates the pathway. I've been burned many times where I have created pathways and then people change, you know. And I don't resent the moment of creating the opportunities at all. I love it. If anybody knows me, you'll know I'm a big giver. I love creating space for everyone to win. My frustration at the time would be with God on sometimes there seemed like there was a gap between where I desired to be and where I was. And I would be frustrated that it felt like everything that I did, I had to strive and strain and do so much to get there. And here I am now throwing the alley-oop so somebody else has it easier. And I'm sitting there like, where my alley-oop? Like, where is it coming? And the Lord one day had to deal with me on the fact that he called me a pioneer. He said, you are going to have to accept the frustration of this. You're going to have to accept that pioneers are often alone because they go ahead of the pack to clear the pathway. You're going to have to become comfortable with the fact that I have created you this way. And yes, there are benefits to pioneering, but there is also that drawback sometimes of really wanting. I know you know what I mean. It's like, man, I just want someone to help me.
The human side is so hard.
Yeah.
The thing that you do, whatever it is that you do, that is not hard for most of us.
Yes.
Whatever we are gifted to do, you know, that is what God gifted you to do. So it is almost effortless for you to get out there and do that. When I give some of these speeches, when I say some of these things, you know, I jot down notes, bullet points. And then I have a very strong memory. I can tend to remember everything that I said. If I mind that I said, I'm going to say, I'd remember it and go say it. But the navigating of the human and how they encounter what we do is the challenge. And then, you know, ascension really is breathing in thinner air while having to breathe as hard as you always did.
You better say that one again.
Ascension is breathing in thinner air while having to breathe as hard as you always did.
Wow.
Because I don't need less oxygen because I'm in a higher atmosphere. Matter of fact, I need more. That if you look and study when people go into the high altitudes, a lot of times they take oxygen tanks with them because the higher you go up, the more air, the harder it is to breathe.
Every breath is harder.
Every breath is hard, right? So as you go up higher, it's harder to breathe. I still need the same amount of oxygen. So what happens is when you're ascending, people think you need less. So they give you less.
Gary, you did. Keep going. Don't go. Because you are saying a mouthful
that you need. You still need on the human level. You just have to learn how to supply it for yourself. And that is the hardest part to me of pioneer.
Yes.
That you have to learn how to become for yourself the things that you are for other people.
Wow. Because people see distance a lot of times. Like as you are ascending, they watch that. So their mind reads it through separation.
Nobody charges me. Okay, when I get invoices to pay for people or proposals, nobody charges me like I still live in North Carolina. Everybody charges me today like I got a whole bunch of money because I got a whole bunch of power.
Yeah, right.
And I get it. I understand it. I navigate that. But I'm the guy who there was nobody even giving me opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody was creating a contractual opportunity for me. You know, one of the things that I look at, I talk often about how important it is for us as Black people to invest in each other. Well, when I've run for office, and you can examine this across the board, most Black people who run for office don't hire Black people to run their campaign, okay? Especially on a federal race. Everybody in my leadership team, for the most part, was Black. And I paid them industry norms. I didn't cut them down because they were Black, right? Don't cheat Black people.
Don't cheat Black people.
Okay? But when it comes to checking off boxes for me, being able to say I spent $700,000 paying Black folks.
Yeah.
Right? I ain't never had nobody put me in a position where somebody gave me the type of contracts that I've given to other people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
However, that's my call.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a reward that's going to come to me at some point later.
Yes.
That I can't see today. And I used to pray this thing, and I had to learn how to be very specific in the things that I pray. I used to pray that God made me a conduit for wealth, right? So I was that. Money went straight through me to other people.
Yeah.
Okay?
You want to be a container.
I want to contain some of the, and as well as that, I've learned that what you ask for, you will get it. And you have to learn how to navigate that and recognize that maybe sometimes we was asking for the wrong thing.
Wow.
That we in that journey of pioneering, okay, you ask for these things and now these things are happening. You're like, oh, I don't like this, right? Ask for help along the way too.
Wow.
That's another thing that I've had to learn to do. That sometimes, and I called you before and say, bro, I just need to talk to you.
Yep.
This is bothering me, or I sent a text and said, you have to learn how to reach out for help.
Yes.
That you cannot navigate this alone.
Yes.
That the journey of leadership is difficult. And if every leader tells you it's long,
what do you expect? And here's the thing I will say. While you may be pioneering in your space, you are not the only pioneer. So it's learning. Like, we have this. Like, I talk about the fact we don't get to talk all the time, but when we do, we are both like, dude, let me tell you about this. And we find a place of comfort that somebody gets it, right? I want to ask you this question for our listeners, because I feel that sometimes we need to expose our humanity for others to grow. So we have pioneers listening to you and I. Some of them are as far in their pioneering journey as we are. Some of them are earlier. I'm going to ask you a very direct question and a follow-up. Did you ever want to give up?
yes.
Can you remember a time, or can you express to our listeners a time that you really wanted to give up and how you navigated yourself back into the journey, back into the fight? Because for what we've seen from
You ready? All right. 2017, around May of 2017, I get arrested at the council. I was also going through a breakup. I had just moved. I got money all over the place because I moved and I got expenses with moving. I'm going through a breakup right after I moved. And I go to a council meeting to talk, right? And we had planned that we were going to ensure that people heard us on this Alton Sterling thing. This is a year after the murder, and the DOJ had just made a decision. I get drugged out the council meeting by the police for talking.
I remember.
And then they take me downstairs, cameras everywhere. I was about 70, 80 pounds heavier than I am today. They try to stuff me in the back of this little car, all on camera. And I'm thinking to myself, I got a child at home with her mom. Who's going to find out her dad got arrested at the like this. My mom and dad at the time were both in their 70s, are going to turn on the TV and see their son thrown in the back of the police.
Wow.
For talking, right? I look like a whole full-blown criminal.
Because you were talking.
Because I was at the meeting talking and they wanted us to shut up. Not what we was talking about, right? I got home after that experience and reading what the comments said on the internet, how people had so much to say. And then I started seeing pictures of myself getting stuffed into a police car. And there were some people who would probably look at that and say, oh, he playing that out. He wanted that. That was one of the most humiliating and disgusting things in my life. Because as a free black man, we used to see a free black man. Okay. So as a free black man, because I'm up here talking at this mic, you gonna just disregard my rights, my citizenship, and then my dignity as a man to just speak.
Wow.
And to have black leadership sit back for the most part and just watch it.
Wow.
Say nothing, did not come to my aid in a real public way to say that I shouldn't have been kicked out of the meeting, to say that it was wrong, none of that.
Wow.
I look like I'm the radical person and something wrong with me. And I asked myself when I got, why the hell you keep doing it? You know, what you ain't proving it to nobody. Like, you ain't nothing to prove to nobody. Why do you keep doing this? And the conviction was, because if you don't, who will? You know, after, when people saw me with Cotton, I was not even coming to that meeting. Okay? I had just run for the state senate, lost. I mean, Regina Barrow whooped me.
I remember because I was like, oh man,
whooped me. Okay, that is the worst defeat I've had in politics. And the sad part is she beat me and then bothered me for years. Literally kicked me off a board this year.
oh wow.
Like that is the level of petty that this stuff can get to, right? That people will stick with screwing with you because you're good.
Wow.
Right? Even when they win.
And that's a part of pioneering.
Even when they beat you, because they know what your potential is.
Wow.
Right? And so for me, when I lost to Regina, I felt like, does the community rock with me like that? You know, not understanding that it takes money to win this stuff for real.
Yes.
Okay. And all of that stuff made me feel like, why do you do this? Why do you keep, you know? And a school board member called me the night of that school board meeting and asked me to come to the meeting. There's another thing. A lot of times when people see me showing up, it's because I was called.
Yes.
Not because I just said, I'm going to go and be in the room today.
Yes.
They said they think that this is going to be an issue trying to change the name of the school. You help push this issue. We really think you need to be there tonight to help us. So I called my guys, and me and the same you folks that always go, yes, Nino, Cleve, we pull up and go to the meeting. So we're at the meeting. She does what she does, and I go off and say what I say, post it on the social media like I always do. It goes viral. I didn't even want to go to the meeting. Didn't even want to be there.
Wow.
I had no interest in being there that night because at the end of the day, I felt rejected by my community.
Wow.
And y'all keep calling me.
Wow.
Right? Like on a personal level.
Yes.
Right? And I've never said these things publicly.
Yes.
But on a personal level.
I get it.
When I show up at the meeting the night to advocate for us to change the name of Lee, and it goes to a viral story that makes the whole country pay attention.
Yes.
Our school board actually changed the name of the building. I didn't want to come to the meeting.
You want to be there.
I didn't want to come to the meeting tonight because my community had let me be on the ballot in November right before that and didn't support me. So why should I be at this meeting leaning in here to make the name change? But you know why? Because I have a daughter in the public school system of East Baton Rouge Parish.
Come on.
Whose mother went to Lehigh, who couldn't change the name of the school, right? I have a daughter who wants to go to that building because of what it offers her academically.
Yes.
And I don't want my child to have a biggest name on her diploma.
Wow.
So whether I want to go tonight, whether I feel like going tonight, whether my ego want to be there tonight, I'm going to pull up and I'm going to do what I do. Because when you are a pioneer, it is less about you and more about the impact that we are setting this world to make.
That's good. Let's talk about this and then we'll land. I wish we had so much more time, but I know you and I are going to have many more conversations on this journey. Let's talk about the patience necessary in pioneering, because some of the painful parts of the journey is because we're having to be patient in the process. And so you talk about, by the time you get to the Connie moment, where many people now know who you are. You had already been moving, but that was like that pivotal moment. But by the time you got there were years between the starting point and that place. Personally, right now, I am beginning to see some of the benefits of the path that I went on. You know, from a professional perspective, you know, my career's been blessed, but there's some things that God has done specifically now. You know, we ain't even talk about church and how difficult that was to navigate that path. But there's patience that is required in pioneering. I feel like a different level of patience is necessary. Can you talk a little bit? Because we have listeners that really, they need to just hold on and continue doing what they know to do and trust that. Because I know when you got to the Connie moment, you realized every other moment that had gotten you there. You realized that nothing was wasted. No step was wasted. You were on the path all along, even when it didn't feel like it, because the results did not match the effort. So can you talk a little bit about the patience necessary in pioneering for our listeners?
I will tell you that I don't like the word patience. It is not a word that I am
pioneering.
But it is a requirement.
Yeah.
It is not something that, you know, of the list of words that you think, like, these are the things I need in order to do the work that I need to do.
Yeah.
Patience don't come first on the list, right? But it is probably in the top three because I've been quoting this scripture all year, and I think I told you this the other day. It was good that I suffered because then I learned to decree. Right?
Yes.
That the moments that I had to endure the suffering, the moments that I had to go pain, those things taught me how to see what is coming to.
Yes.
Because nothing teaches you not to do something again like pain. Okay? Like when you're young and you put your hand on the fire, it's like, oh, that's hot. I ain't gonna do that no more. All right. In this journey, the things that hurt you teach you.
Wow.
And they teach you sometimes to be patient.
Yeah.
That I heard this person say, sit by the river long enough. And when they first said it, it didn't make no sense, but then something happened. And I said, oh, I get that now. I get that now, right? Because somebody had wronged them in a very, very bad way, cost them their job. And later on, the cost the other person paid was far greater, far greater. And it just let me see that you don't have to fix everything that's wrong.
You don't.
That you don't have to try to fight every battle that is wronged against you. And I think that is where we stretch with the patience too, is that we want to make something happen so bad that we don't know it's already happened. And that the thing that the reason it hasn't materialized in your life is you. What hasn't worked out on you yet, right? That sometimes we feel like we're there already, but we haven't met the place that we're going to. But the reality is the development that's happening on the inside of you, as that gets to where it's supposed to be.
Yes.
You start meeting that moment. And what I realized, and I can give you a prime example. When I finally did the Breakfast Club, right? Anybody who's ever done anything on a big level, that's like a big stage that a lot of people desire and aspire to get on because you know you can get your message all over the country.
Yes.
Right? When I first wanted to get on the Breakfast Club, had I got on the Breakfast Club, I would not have done as well as I did.
Wow.
What I knew in hindsight after doing it was, you hadn't even lived enough, done enough to be on that stage when you wanted to be.
Come on.
That by the time I got there, that any question they asked me, I had a lived experience that I could talk about.
Yes.
When I talked about it.
Oh, yeah.
Issue. I wasn't talking about what I read, what I heard, what somebody told me. I was being able to go out and say, nah, and dot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I had lived through some things that gave me an experience that I could talk about in a real way and connect to people.
Yes.
When we did the Breakfast Club, the first time, let me make sure I'm telling the truth. When we did the Breakfast Club in person, the first time, we timed it. We had an ad that we dropped 2 days before. I do the interview. The ad already raised 100,000, 130,000 on the first day by itself. No Breakfast Club. Next day, it raises 110, 120, 116,000. The next day, I go on the Breakfast Club, right? It sustains it at like 110.
Wow.
And then we get 80,000 because this interview is getting traction.
Wow.
Now, had I done an in-person Breakfast Club interview 2 years before that, when I was thinking I had done certain things to get on a certain level, then the timing of it would not have been beneficial to everything I was attempting to accomplish in life, right? But because it happens at a different time in my life, when I am running for the U.S. Senate, trying to accomplish something for Black people in the state of Louisiana, when it hits, I need it.
It was the right time.
It was the right time, the right moment, the right conversation, the right things surrounding me. And it let me see that if you had done this like that when you wanted to, when you thought it was the time,
come on,
you wouldn't have even been able to maximize this in the way that you do today, right?
Yes.
That opportunity paid salary.
Yes.
Right? That opportunity helped us spread our message. That opportunity helped us continue to reach more people to spread our message and grow our base.
Yes.
But if I had done it 2 years ago, 2 years prior to that, when I wasn't running, when I didn't have certain things going on, but you just had something to say,
wouldn't have mattered.
It wouldn't have mattered. And so I say all of that to say that though it is difficult, be patient.
Be patient.
Because everything is lining up for you. And the preparation that you think you may be able to articulate on the stage at that level.
Yeah.
But you may not have all of the components around you that you get the maximum experience out of whatever that is. And you don't get that if you're rushing into everything. And I've learned to just slow down. A lot of people bring a lot of things to me now because they're like, look, he's got hundreds of followers, he's got this reach, you know. I am very cautious that I don't let people pull me into what they want me to do.
Come on.
That I'm still doing the things that I feel called to do.
Come on.
And I think that you don't learn that unless you learn how to just like sit and wait and not try to force everything to happen.
Yes.
And I find I am more profitable in all aspects, profitable, impactful, and whole as an individual when I don't let people just pull me every which way, that I take my time and methodically move about what I'm doing. We have moments when we just know it's time to respond and react.
Yes.
But that is not in every moment.
Yes.
You have to learn that. And that is, now some people have the opposite. They too patient.
Yeah.
They won't get up and make a decision.
They won't
do anything.
Come on.
So there's a balance to this. I've had to learn, I'm a jumper. I'm the guy, look, I got my parachute, and if you ain't got none, I'm going.
Yeah.
But there are people who hesitate a lot. There's a fine line between the two, and knowing, you got to be a decisive decision maker, but you also have to have all the facts, have all the things around you to be able to make a sound decision, because the thing you want the most, when it happens, it's going to happen when you're ready.
When you're ready. I love something you said earlier, and I know we're about to land. I love how you said a lot of times we're busy trying to make something happen without realizing it's already happening. It's in motion. And we treat our pioneering journey sometimes as destinations, if you will. It's like we want to go from one destination to the next, and we want that to happen rapidly without realizing we're on the track. We're in God's plan the whole time. When you got to that moment, you were ready for it. God had cultivated you to be in that space. You had cultivated yourself in ways that you can handle that responsibly. And when it was time, it happened, and I think that that's where people need to grow to. I want you to land us with a lesson as we end this interview. Of course, we are going to have another conversation again, but I love landing these dialogues with some reflection. We often gain more wisdom by looking through the rearview mirror. So we have the opportunity to look back and say, man, if I would have known this, I would have done that. If you were speaking to younger Gary, because this is going to help our listeners as well, what's one thing you would tell him?
You can handle it. I think I say that in a lot of rooms to young people because, and you know this, but most people don't know this. My biological mother committed suicide when I was 2 months old. Mm-hmm. I attempted suicide at 18 and 26. Mm-hmm. Had I been successful in the moments that I thought I couldn't have,
what would the world have missed? And what would your world have missed?
What injustices would have continued without a hand?
Wow.
Right? Not that God is not God enough to have had another person to do his will, because I am a firm believer that you do God's will and he'll reward you and bless you. And if you don't, he'll remove you. Mm-hmm. But he chooses us for the periods and the times that we exist in this world. Mm-hmm. And for me, the lesson that I have learned is whatever life throws, you can handle it. You can handle it. Yes. And that is one of the hardest things, I think, for young people to recognize, that the load ain't as heavy as you think it is today. It's building your strength.
Yeah.
It's giving you the endurance, right? And learn sooner than later how to let go.
Come on.
I think that we hold on to people, things, experiences, and we as Black people specifically need to do a better job having conversations about our emotional health.
Come on.
And being able to let go of things, to just move forward, to say, you know what, this does not serve me. This is not something that is going to bring fruit in my life. And if it is not going to bring fruit, then it brings trash. And I got to move from that.
I got to move from it.
And I think that if I had known those two things earlier, there's so much more that I could have navigated with more strength. There's so much more that I could have navigated with more emotional clarity. there's so much more that I would have been at peace, right?
Yes.
And I think that in my journey, those are the things that have really kept me in the distance to learn that you can handle it. That's why I can walk in the rooms and have the confidence that I have.
Yeah.
Do it scared anyway, because I know I can handle it. I can handle it whether my knees shaking, whether my hands sweating, whether they talk about me, whether they love me, whatever it is, I can handle it. And so can you.
I love it. This conversation has been everything I thought it would be. I know that we're going to have more dialogues. I thank you for being a part of this today. You know, I reached out to my friend. I say, listen, we're starting this. I'm excited about it. We can't start something like this without having you on their bottom line. You know, I know your passion for our people, and I'm so glad that you came and had this conversation with me on today. I want to thank our listening audience and our viewing audience for tuning in to this episode of Grow Black Leaders. Again, we exist. We're creating an ecosystem, a community, a space where Black leaders cultivate Black leaders. We understand that it is difficult and hard. Being Black and a leader has its own nuances, and we hope that today's conversation helped you to advance your leadership journey. Until next time, we hope you continue growing, and please do tune in for our next episode. Before we wrap up, though, I'm glad I just thought about it. Gary, how can they stay in touch with you? I know some people who may not be following, they may want to follow, so how can they stay in touch with you?
I'm at Gary Chambers Jr. on it, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all of that. And let me say to you, brother,
Yes.
Thank you for your voice. Thank you for your leadership. Most of all, thank you for being a friend.
Absolutely.
You have been a consistent friend to me through the years. In the moments that most people had no clue I needed, you were a friend, and I love you, brother.
I love you too, bro. Say, you know, I feel the same. And we're going to keep pioneering together. Sure. We got some things to do. We still young. We getting older. But we're still young. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, continue growing. And we look forward to catching up with you in the next episode of Grow Black Leaders.
Thank you for tuning in to Grow Black Leaders. Don't let your growth journey stop here.
Be sure to subscribe and visit our website, growblackleaders.com, and follow us on social media at Grow Black Leaders.